My husband's ex told the kids to treat me like a stranger, so I did the same, and they finally noticed what that meant. The text came through on a Tuesday afternoon while I was working in my home office. My stepdaughter Hazel, 14, had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs in the bathroom. I'd gone to grab coffee and saw the screen light up. The preview showed enough. Mom says we don't have to pretend anymore. Just be polite like she's Dad's roommate. I stood there holding my coffee mug, reading those words over and over. Each time felt like a small knife twisting. I'd been in their lives for 3 years, married to their dad Trevor for 2. In that time, I'd learned everything about these kids. I knew that Hazel needed her backpack placed by the front door the night before school, or she'd have a complete meltdown in the morning. That Owen, 11, only ate sandwiches cut diagonally, never straight across, because the diagonal cuts made them taste better somehow. That both kids needed their permission slips signed exactly 24 hours in advance, because their mom would inevitably forget until the morning they were due, creating absolute chaos. I knew that Hazel's anxiety spiked before every single math test, and she needed someone to quiz her repeatedly, using the same voice, the same patience, until the numbers finally clicked in her brain. That Owen had recurring nightmares about getting lost in crowded places and needed someone to check that all the doors and windows were locked before he could fall asleep. That Hazel secretly still slept with the stuffed elephant her grandmother had given her before she died, even though she'd never admit it to her friends. That Owen practiced his spelling words better when someone made them into a song. I knew which teammates' parents could be relied on for carpools, which teachers responded better to emails versus phone calls, which homework strategies worked, and which ones led to tears. I knew the name of Hazel's first crush, the one she'd never told her dad about. I knew that Owen was being quietly bullied by a kid in his class, but was too ashamed to tell anyone. I knew all of this because I'd paid attention, because I'd shown up, because I'd cared. Their biological mom, Vanessa, had been poisoning them against me slowly since the day Trevor and I started dating. Little comments dropped casually into conversations. How I was probably temporary. How real families don't include replacement. How their dad would eventually come to his senses and realize what he'd lost. She'd skip her weekends with them, then tell the kids I'd probably convinced their dad she shouldn't come around as much. She bought them new phones specifically to text them during our family dinners, asking what I was feeding them, if I was being nice to them, reminding them constantly that she was their real mother and I was just someone passing through. The phones were presented as gifts, generous presents from a loving mother. Really, they were surveillance devices, tiny screens that let her insert herself into every moment of our lives together. I'd tried everything imaginable to make this work. Family therapy sessions where the kids sat with crossed arms, barely speaking, clearly having been coached by their mother about what not to say. Long, exhausting conversations with Trevor about setting boundaries with his ex, most of which ended with him saying he couldn't control what she did on her time. Patient, age-appropriate discussions with the kids about blended families and how love expands rather than divides. How caring about me didn't mean betraying their mother. Nothing worked. Because how do you compete with biology? How do you fight against someone who has the ultimate trump card, who can say I'm your real mother and have those words carry the weight of blood and birth? When I saw that text Tuesday